Hello and welcome back to Femme Tarot. I'm Natalie, your international psychic medium and energy reader and healer. And today's guest is not just a teacher, but he is an incredible being of light. When Taoist Master San Qing enters a room, something shifts. The energy of the room shifts and suddenly light enters. The space itself seems to fill with light, stillness, and a deep sense of remembering. He's got over 30 years of experience as a healer, a guide, and a spiritual mentor. And what's even more fascinating is that he is an ordained priest of Daoism and a holder of both the 66th and 126th generation lineages of Daoism. He is a master of Qigong, Neigong, and a profound master of inner alchemy. San Qing is also known for his extraordinary gift of channeling Lao Tzu and his direct access to the spirit world. Please welcome Master Taoist San Qing.
Yeah, so meeting that intention and attention is really the true essence of how you harness the universe as a creator. And I think that a lot of people tend to focus their attention on the fringe benefits of their personality, which is all external. Their emotional content is external. Nothing that they're experiencing is the truth. And so this is where we're met with disconnect, disappointment, frustration with the very sort of average brainwashing of manifestation, healing, magic. It's sort of a rhetoric that continues to be recycled within this community that has a diminished return, because there's a certain point where you have to be able to, it's not just a throwaway, but embodiment is part of that path of self-realization. And many people can't hold that resonance. And it's all got to do with, what is this truth teller exactly revealing about your own patience within your attention and intention for self-realization. So the measurement of your patience and your understanding of your environment, others, is truly the measurement of how much you are able to allow and receive as a creator, truly understanding that there is no delusion between past and future. The creation is now, and that ability lies within you.
Correct.
And that's really the part. It's like it's all sort of like this until otherwise noted. You know what you know, you don't know what you don't know.
That's true. And I want to go back a little bit to the basics for the people who are going to watch this video right now. Can you explain Taoism and Tao for people who don't understand the principles of Tao and the way? And how can you adopt these principles, the principles of the way in modern life with all the anxieties, the screens, the distractions, all of it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's do a crash course. I mean, the
Please do.
dusty, mundane, old world, tinny, repeatable, miserable hierarchy of Taoism that is really quite a turn off. And most people look at it and go, "I'll overlook that. Let me brush over Buddhism." And then when I realize I have to sacrifice my body, mind, and spirit, I'll exit that method and go on to something else. Taoism is about knowing thyself. Now, this is a concept for most paths, religions, belief systems, methodologies, yet it is the true essence with the relationship of the seeker and their connection with the whispers of the universe that emanate through their body, that gives them a very clear signal as to the true nature of reality, which is the now moment. Now, to acquire that, we look at reality like a bellows. So Taoism is about receiving and being able to understand reality, is about contracting and expanding. And
Mhm.
so for the simplicity of the audience, we're looking at when there are two sides to the mountain. One is yin, one is yang. You are traveling up that mountain and ultimately merging this symbiosis as a unified state as one. And that ripples into the detachment and attachment of thyself, which does not require the personality. So you are navigating through your reality with this understanding that the potential of this realm we call the 3D, the dimensional understanding,
Mhm.
consciousness there is a commodity. The commodity is your attention. That attention sparks divinity that creates what we call energy potential. So from the understanding that the animation of everything starts with the void, the primordial mother, the dielectric potential, the magnetism, and then it bleeds into animating consciousness. So the void animates consciousness. Consciousness animates the Shen, we call the spirit. The spirit animates the energy animates the body. Now, the body, the physical body, has many compartments and components, but in general, we're talking about the flesh. We're also talking about the mind, the emotions. These are all components of this base level understanding. So when you start moving up and down this sliding scale, you'll start to understand the deeper meaning of you. And you'll realize that the fringe benefits of your mundane reality, your personality, that you're so self-consuming because you want to consume. You're a consumer. Now, when I've referred to the energy potential as being the currency, your
Mhm.
attention is the most valuable currency you have. So are you
Right.
consuming externally or internally? Now,
Mhm.
this is where it gets very interesting because the consumption is very much unnecessary. The personality, the fringe benefits of the external world is the very limitation of your own abilities to create. Yet people get caught in that and they become extremely inverted. And we've spoken on this before, which to this point, your podcast is coming out in the next week or so. So I just wanted
Perfect.
to give you
I
a
was
heads
gonna
up.
ask you.
Yeah. So we go into great detail through our conversation on my channel, and we'll go through it here, is that most people will get caught up into the weeds and the trauma and the triggers of what they perceive as their own identity, which really has nothing to do with to know thyself. To know
Mhm.
thyself requires none of the trappings of personality. This is all external. Your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are external to the true nature of who you are. And that's where it's a paradox where most people get caught, as we're starting to build this robust unity that we're having in this conversation. We're feeling the oscillating effects of the energy. It's present now. It's happening for the
Mhm.
audience, for us. We're experiencing this potential. Now, as a seeker to a knower, there's a crescendo effect that comes from divinity, the spark
Mhm.
of divinity, which is what's desirous within your own center, which is your heart. What really compels you to create inquiry, to move to contemplation. Contemplation then nurtures curiosity. Curiosity blossoms hopium. And this is a very potent self-realization because hope breeds and opens the doorway to any possibility. And this is where you have a crossroads for most people. Within a Taoist path, we refer to that as the evidence, the Fa Jun. When you are accessing that, this
Mhm.
forms a belief system. Now, this potential is now. For you to acquire, let's, for example, breathing, tasting, sleeping, walking. This is all an autonomic response from a neurological perspective, yet it doesn't require your attention. People don't take a moment to breathe and realize that they are in possession of the most powerful operating system to date, and it is accessible now, and they are already using it, yet they have been conditioned through their environment, through the trappings of external fringe benefits This is not a benefit at all. It's a consumption. And from that
Mm.
consumption, it starts to consume the individual, and it goes deep and deep and deep. And from a physiological perspective, where you see disease forming, this is all coming from the seed of destruction, which comes from the thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And
Yeah.
so the more and more you feed that, the more and more it becomes evident within the material, the mortal state of the physical body. And this is where you are able to transform that and intercept that noise and create a knowing that is the now moment, that does not require the past or the future. I'm hearing this a lot with many people these days, yet it's conceptual for most, and they're not developed enough to acquire and hold that resonance, because
Yeah.
the real pulse is a resonance. That is a constant. It never dies. When you embark on the fringe benefits of mental emotional state, these are impermanent. They are transitory. They are limited. So what happens is you will find that there's a diminished return. That is what we call energy potential. Yin and yang is energy potential. Now, when you embark on that engagement, it will start to fester and seed within the body if you do not meet it with a liberation. So thoughts, feelings, and emotions are like a wave. They are a wave. Whereas the pulse, the primordial mother, is a constant that never dissipates. It never
Mm.
diminishes. It is forever. It is eternal. It is abundant, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite. And so when you're able to meet that, guess what happens? Anything is possible. And you, my dear friend, are sharing this potency with your incredible audience, and all the wisdom teaching and all the insight that you're revealing for any seeker. Now, I think the biggest crossroads for most is they get to the belief system and they're like, well, I have one.
Mhm.
Okay, well, that's met with evidence, right? This is the part of the experience. As a seeker to a knower, before it is ultimately revealed that you are all things, coming back to the Taoism, contracting and expanding, this is nothing more than a bellows. Your whole reality is hinged on the access point of completion to rebirth. This is happening
Mm.
all day, every day. This is the beauty of this primordial knowing. And so when you realize this, you can access it like Luke Skywalker and the Death Star, that final shot, if you've ever seen Star Wars,
Of
where
course.
you hit that point, that center point.
Yeah.
This is the Wu Ji, the charge you and I are getting right now. We are in it, and we are
Mm.
experiencing it. We are bathing in that divinity. And so it's accessible to anyone. So when people sort of attempt to navigate it on a slow pace, that is an option. But the truth be known, that you may have a spark from yourself or myself in a fleeting moment that will give
Yeah.
the seeker to the knower, and it will open up gateways and doorways that were never even an option. And they will feel that as this now moment. It's not part of the intellect, the finite mind. It's bankrupt, it's corrupted, it's empty. So when you return to the intellect, you'll be very disappointed, but you'll repeat it over and over again until this dissatisfaction becomes so miserable that you have to realign yourself. It happens to everyone. Paranormal, psychological, metaphysical. You will meet it with
Mm.
seeing an apparition, talking to grandma, getting a vivid dream, seeing energies, speaking to spirits, having clairvoyance, mediumship, channeling. These are all evidence-based realizations. Now, this is where the turning point comes. When you're able to embody it and you realize that this
Yeah.
material is this currency of the electric potential, which is yin and yang, you have this overlapping effect, this undulating effect, like a flame that's flickering and it's constantly moving, and it's illusionary, it's elusive. You can see it and then it disappears. This is the part where people reach out and they attempt to grab it, where they get a taste and they're like, it's gone. I was
Mm.
seeing energy, I was seeing auras, I was hearing voices. And this is where they need to meet that resonance by seeking out wisdom teachers like yourself that can give them insight that is permanent, that is tangible, that is evidence based, that is a result that will help them return to their own knowing. And that's what the teaching of what we share, in my opinion, comes from a wholeness. It becomes robust, it becomes whole. And then you realize that you need nothing from the fringe benefits of the external state, that everything you need is right here in the center point. Yet it's conceptual until met with a method. And this is why your teaching and your insight is so valuable. And it's so very much important these days that we return back to this nurturing of this ancient knowing that comes between the seeker to the knower, and it corrupts and bankrupts their abilities, because that belief system, if you keep investing in it, and you're every time you go back to your account, it's empty. There's just an insanity that comes with that psychosis, and then you start believing that it's not possible, right? So now your knowing is, well, that was just a delusion, and the more I invest in it, the more it shows itself to me, which returns the diminished evidence. And then, of course, you become sour, you become half empty, you become delusional.
Hardened.
Right. There's a hardness that comes with that. And that subtle realization where you're in that center point, you're accessing that primordial pulse that is always there, yet the more and more you separate from it through the evidence and not being able to obtain that, as that undulating flame is just moving in and out. It's like, it's over here. Let me grab it. And it's not realized. And that's where the method comes in. And so within Taoism, once you realize that everything is contracting and expanding, you have the ability to access what we call the Wu Ji, which is what is referred to as the unified state, the primordial mother, the pulse. That is the constant magnetism that animates everything. Now, that is a method of cultivation. You access that between the breath in and the breath out is this ancient knowing. And the simplicity of it is dismissed by most. And that's why they walk away from the primordial realization. And then, of course, you hold that resonance, which has energy potential, but you're unifying it. So this has vibratory frequential resonance. Once met with a mastery, you can hold it and access it at will. Furthermore, you are it. That is the self-realization that you are this present moment, that the present moment is you, vice versa, in or out, up or down. That's all that's necessary. But once again, the paradox is it doesn't require you. And that's where people go, oh, my goodness, I think my head's going to explode. But the more and more this information that we teach others, it will become clear, because that pulse is what we call Wu Wei.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Wu Wei, yeah.
And so Wu Wei, once recognized as that present moment and holding that resonance, like holding a beautiful note, this sweet nectar, this perfect tone that never leaves. It's just forever. You can hit a bowl, you can sing a note, and you will literally feel it inaudibly for indefinitely if you have the mastered skills to feel that. It's going on all the time. It happens to everyone. It never leaves you. Once it's accessed, it's yours. So Wu Wei is synchronistic, serendipitous evidence that never stops. It's like you'll just be the luckiest person in the room from the perspective of someone who's humanistic. I can't believe it's possible that everything that you do goes from shit to water to wine to gold to absolutely the most incredible evidence. And this is what we all have the ability to access, and the excitement of that potential to be realized, because it's never left us. And that's the biggest issue that most people have through this path of cultivation is, can I find something that can meet the evidence? So I am no longer seeking. I am no longer evidence-based. I am literally the oscillating physical, energetic, and spiritual manifestation of divine word, will, light, love. And in my case, the Tao. In any other case, whatever you are meeting as your knowing, whether it's the universe, Buddha, God, Allah, whatever it is, it will be yours, but you must be able to hold it. You must be able to create a container that will sustain this self-realization, and most people tend to start there, and then it starts to create a rub, and all of a sudden all the things that they don't desire from reaching for that flame will
Mhm.
start to present themselves, and they'll become more and more evidence, and they're like, oh, this is nonsense. Everything I don't want is presenting itself in my reality, because you're not realizing you're still feeding the fringe benefits of personality and the external world, and not realizing that you don't have to be required. Your personality is not necessary for this realization. The resonance will precede you, and you do not have to put your attention. It's reverting back to the understanding of the autonomic nervous system,
Mm.
the realization that it's always there. And
Right.
that's the of self-mastery that's so exciting, because it's for all of us. It is us. It's who we really are. Hopefully that answered the question.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask you, because Taoism speaks of returning to the
Yeah.
uncarved block, which is pretty much going back to the basics and start the basically carving the energy and shifting things around you to start creating, right? Am I saying it correctly?
Oh
To
yeah,
start
yeah.
creating your own reality through the magic of the uncarved block. But I would love for you to explain it more, because I find it very fascinating, and I believe that people can actually adopt these principles in their everyday lives, and just learn how to quieten like the outside noise and anything that is which distracts people, all of us, including us. I mean, not you obviously, but like it distracts all of us from what truly matters and what our true essence is. So I would love
Mm.
to hear what
Oh,
you've got.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this is like a reset. It's a reset
Right.
and return to who you are. We
Hmm.
refer to this as the primordial mother. As I spoke to before, the pulse is within everything that animates consciousness. And so your perception of your own hierarchy of how you ascend to a state of awareness or self-realization is determinative by this filter,
Mm,
because you can literally wake up and be self-realized, yet you will know that you are on a minimus sort of like impermanent sort of state, because things are still created from the emotion. They're
mhm,
still created from the thought, and that will show you that you are still in a contracted state. So
mm,
between contracting and expanding, and you have the ability to access that, you will realize that, okay, I can self-regulate. I'm instantly, effectively reacting, not responding.
mm,
You're
mhm,
not realizing that it is happening through you, not to you. And this is
mm,
where I always say, oh, it's
mm.
never about you. And people are like, whoa, what does that mean? You were late. You didn't call me back. You weren't friendly. You didn't say hello. All of this is contingent on your own experience,
Right.
and realizing that that self-consuming fringe benefit is the imminent demise of any seeker to a knower, because it stays within that material, and it makes it very limited, because you will see more and more of the consumption. So I briefly spoke on this on one of my just recently put a podcast out. If you want to create immortality within this incarnation, we normally go within 60-year cycles, and it gives you
Mm,
very clear evidence. I'm in my mid 50s right now. The cycle changes, where if you hit 60, you will have the entry and gateway, the Taoist rights, to the next 60. And from that, you'll have another gateway to another 60.
interesting.
Quite frankly, quite simply, in this current moment, just with information and understanding of things, you are the mortality can reign between the flesh of 120 years quite successfully. So when you hit those markers for a Taoist alchemist, it's starting to understand, how are you creating the environment physiologically through the mental emotional state that ultimately returns to the spirit.
Mm,
And
mhm,
so that energy, what are you playing with that energy? Are you consuming it and inverting it to a point where it becomes very evident through the flesh? Or are you realizing that it's passing through you and you're able to take from it what is necessary for nurturing this physical body, and then in turn creating immortality, what we call immortality crystallized in this material state as a Taoist path? So when you take a block of wood and you carve it to your own unique signature, you are creating, this returns back to the bellows, the completion and rebirth that is happening every second of every minute, of every hour, of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year. You have accessibility. And when you access that pulse, we form what we call the diamond of perfection. This is something that is compressed from a hardness to supple access of vitality. And those facets will start to reverberate through the flesh, and you will harness that. Between the breath in and the breath out is this compression. And when you obtain that, it saturates to the flesh, and you have dominion, you have imperium over the cell potential regeneration, which can come in the form of 50 trillion cells, maestering the 0.07 millivolts of energy potential. That is so enriching, because this is the anchor, this is the avatar for your self-realization. And so when people are walking through their path, you must realize, for you to continue to get a level up within Super Mario Brothers, you must be able to hold that resonance. And when the body speaks to you, because it's no longer realizing that the feeling is enough, it will no longer hold that resonance, and it will return. It will fold in on itself. It will collapse in on itself, and it will return so that you start over again. Now, that is for the seeker to determine that. If you stay in the mind, if you stay in the mental, emotional state, the diminished return will become more expedient. It will fast track itself, where as you meet each 9-year cycle, you will see either more enriching and unification or more separation. So from the flesh, you'll start to see a diminished return. 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63. These are very telling moments of where you're at in your own creation, what you're doing to nourish your own anchor. And furthermore, you will see it through the body's ability to regenerate and heal, because not only as seekers and healers that we are facilitating this catalyst and conduit for this resonance, we must be able to show ourselves this through the body. And this is so potent, because people invert too much of this energy, which starts to corrupt and percolate and become a petri dish of deconstruction. And you'll see it through the body. Whereas as you continually, instead of the old Western world model of demise, where as you get older, just accept you're going to get sicker, that is a fundamental attack on your own knowing, right? Because you are being basically told that as you continue to progress, you diminish the return of the body. That's absolutely a fallacy. It's a lie. Within an Eastern mastery, i.e. Taoism, you become even richer and more potent and more supple as you continue to reflect on every minute of every hour of every day of every year within your mortal state. You will continue to command that immortality, and it will show itself through your vitality. And so you'll start to see things. Most people tend to find the diminished return at the 50-year marker. So things that you would have considered like, oh my goodness, I'm half a century, things that you were vital in when you were a young man or a young woman are now diminished returns. You're struggling with the suppression of your emotional hormonal cascade. Your hormonal cascade will then start to consume you. So the more you become invested in the humanistic mental emotional state, that will start to consume you, because each thought, feeling, and emotion requires the energy potential. If you're not tapped into that unified pulse, you will consume yourself. And so every time you meet an emotion, it will be met with a currency. The currency is
Mm.
life force. And so it will start to show itself within the inability to create, which would be motivation, desire, sexual drive. All these things are human expressions of
Mm.
divinity that must be met. And when people start to see the diminished return, because the hormonal cascade, may it be the union of male and female, yin and yang, divine masculine, divine feminine, these energies are part of this material state, and they will require a union. And
Mm.
so, if you're born into this world as a man or a woman, you must be very much aware that that potency needs to return to the center, that you should not draw from too much of that one essence, because even though it's your natural state, you will consume it. So when you
Mm.
meet with emotions and thoughts, they start to consume this energy, and it will show itself through the body as a diminished endocrine system. So you'll start to see it at a cellular level. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, we have this huge issue with men at the age of 50, women at the age of 50, where their hormones are so diminished that they're not even getting the basic, like recycled effects of being either male or female. The excitement of these potent energies, their hormones are so diminished. So when you meet an emotion, whatever it is, fear, anxiety, stress,
Mm.
anger, it consumes that currency within your body. So as the hormonal cascade consumes, if you're a male, it consumes your testosterone. When that testosterone is consumed, it doesn't have an off switch. So
No.
you keep attempting to feed it more anxiety, more sugar, more caffeine, more drugs, more alcohol, whatever it is, and it will continue to consume it. When there is no more of that potential, what happens is the
Crashes.
cortisol, the cortisol that your body is attempting to create homeostasis in will start feeding from other organs. And so it will start to consume the kidneys, the liver, all these things will start to diminish. And then you'll have adverse side effects. For men, it starts to come in the form of high levels of estrogen, low levels of testosterone. And in women, the complete opposite.
The opposite.
You
Yeah.
have this effect where I'm not getting a handle of my physical body. The old throwaway expression, I used to be able to lose 5 pounds in 10 days. I can't do it anymore. I'm much older. This is all delusion, because you can meet it immediately. As the expression goes, the hallmark expression, the honeymoon is over. It's never over, ever, ever. And you must be able to realize that once you access that primordial mother, it's on like Donkey Kong. The
Mm.
immortality elixir is coming your way, and you're going to just cultivate it and continue to cultivate it as evidence, and it will start in the body. So those cycles, for anyone that's breathing and living right now, they will meet those cycles in a 60-year block for a Taoist immortality. And let's
Mhm.
just say that whoever's listening to this has the ability to access at least 120 years, if not more, on the path of 180, and so on and so forth.
Mm.
And
Interesting.
that is very clear in documentation and immortal Taoist canons that go back hundreds of thousands of years. And so this simplicity of this seems so redundant, yet no one meets it. No one meets it. And
Mm.
most people, you know, mid 50s and 60s today is the new 20s. Yet most people still, they're 40 miles of bad road when they get to that peak level of what most people would consider middle age, which is absolute nonsense. Now you are realizing that longevity is the new key. Is that
Exactly, and what's middle age these days? I mean, middle age is not I mean, it's just a term, but there is no middle age because you cannot the way things are progressing right now and the way that we're evolving as human beings, biologically too, as you said, because now we have all of these resources, right, to do that. What's middle age? Define middle age. But I want to jump onto something that you mentioned earlier because you mentioned about emotions and love and relationships, and I just want to ask you, what did Taoism teach you about love as a state of being, not in the romantic?
Right, right. Well, again, the potency of that is you come back to the uncarved block. The uncarved block
Mm,
is that pulse, right?
mm,
What people get misdirected by or delusional about is that love is the ultimate. Love is one facet of the diamond.
right.
And this is where there's a misconception where you gravitate to Hallmark, or you get reminded every Mother's Day, every Valentine's Day, every birthday, that this is when you can remember this potency. Yet
Mm-hmm.
it is accessible to anyone and everyone at will, 24/7. It is a state where this effect of that symbiosis within that permanency of the pulse, you morph into that facet of the diamond. It's love, it's joy, it's
Mm,
bliss, it's harmony, it's permanent. That is your
mhm.
true nature. That is default. That does not require you to go in and attempt to tinker with it to create that. That charge you and I are getting right now is that evidence. That chill is that evidence, and that shows itself through the
Yeah.
body. So love is problematic for most, because as you start, you listen to this conversation, go, oh my goodness, all the things they're saying, it seems so obscure to me before. I never thought about it that way. This is the inquiry that starts that spark of
Mm,
changing your knowing through
correct. Yeah.
evidence. And so love can be razor blades and bunny rabbits to one person, unicorns and like fairies to another, until you meet that universal
Mm,
sacred state, which requires selfishness to the selflessness, creates a sacrifice. And that sacrifice is not something that is, it's transitory. The fringe benefits of your personality is what gets you corrupted and
sure.
disjointed and delusional and misdirected.
Mm,
So when you meet in the middle and you realize your sacrifice is to allow yourself to be who you are, oh my goodness, what happens there? I'm just returning to wholeness, returning to this robust potency that is always been there. And that's where incredible teaching like yourself shares that insight, because you're giving them the resonance, and they're like, oh my goodness, I this
mm,
is so familiar to me. This is
mm,
the true nature of who I am. And this is where you would assume that it comes back to love. Love is one facet. Love is not required for you to be self-realized. That's the issue that most people have. It is a beautiful petal from the rose of
yeah.
perfection, yet it is one petal. And if you fall and hinge all your reality on love itself, you will be disappointed, because it can be evoked until you create that universal resonance. And what happens is you spark from human condition through the labyrinth of your mind. You come out the other side to be human being, the
Mm,
beingness of all things, that unified state. That then your determinative realization of love is everything. Everything is perfection. Everything.
mhm.
This is perfection. This is perfection. You are perfection. I am perfection. There is no,
Yeah.
it's seamless. And
Mm,
that will instantly show itself, because it doesn't require any tinkering. All that is selflessness and
and
servitude, and that will come from here. Yet most people go, well, it's from the heart. I just want to think about my grandma and chocolate muffins when I was 5. And these are all great little tantalizing little tidbits, yet they don't hold the resonance, because it's corrupted and limited and diminished by other things that create roadblocks. And so really the goal is that sentience, is when you realize that humans have this superpower and you access that sentience, then it creates the superpower, empathy. And then
mhm.
all of a sudden, everything is love. Everything. It's that universal resonance that is undeniable, doesn't require anything. No matter what you are doing, you are admitting this emulative state of knowing will be your your tuning fork. You are it. It is you. And it will not be corrupted. No matter how much you fight it, you will be like, oh my goodness, there's nothing I wouldn't do for anybody. And it sounds like a fairy pipe dream for many virtue signalers. Yet when you truly hold that resonance, that's why we dissolve the misdirection by all this. Oh well, I need to be in line, and I've handed my soul to my creator, and it's God, it's Jesus, it's Buddha, it's universe, whatever it is. You're still separating yourself because that is you. And the faster you come to that realization will be determinative by what you are prepared to sacrifice to realize that. That's where people pucker up and they're like, oh my goodness. And that's why it's so powerful when you use that word sacrifice. That's when people go, oh my goodness, I have to make a decision to stop with this incessant, futile nonsense of the finite mind and realize that if I just let that go, if I sacrifice that as my identity, I will be self-realized. And all of a sudden, everything is bliss, everything is happiness,
Yeah.
everything is joy. Even when you exhibit the emotional state of a human beingness or the human condition, anger, fear, frustration, all transmutes back to that signal.
True.
And it doesn't matter who it is, but you must master it. It's all conceptual.
I'm glad we're talking about this because what I find is that there is an internal quest for human beings to either find love, fill their heart with love, or get away from love or some kind of love. And most trauma that human beings have, it's not because they lost money. It's not because they went bankrupt. It's not because they, I don't know, they had an accident and they broke their leg or they have some kind of chronic disease. It comes down to more to the mother's womb and the connection to the mother and how much love you had or didn't have. And I find that most people, because I read so many people and through and working with energies, this is what I pick up with everyone. And the first thing and the first principle I always tell to everyone is we have to work on the heart and the love, because at the end of the day, the chakra is the most powerful we have, the heart, right? It just it emanates this incredibly, amazingly powerful energy which is connected to the divine source, which people are completely unaware of. But at the end of the day, I believe that if you're able, what you said is incredibly healing for anyone who's going to watch this, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch this, and I know this is going to help, which is why I brought up love, because people need to hear this. People need to get rid of all the gunk, all the junk, all the noise, and reach the heart and get to that point and get to that state of being. In my opinion, I'm so happy how you explained it and the way you say it, because this is going to resonate for a lot of people. And people will, because now as we're moving into this more ascended times, the people are awakening more. People are now more open to things that are not tangible to them, that they're not quantifiable. And I believe that I'm very hopeful about humanity, by the way. I'm always like I'm always the optimist. But one of the reasons why I'm very optimistic about humanity and where humanity is going as well is because I'm seeing this in people. People are looking deeper now. It's not about money. It's not about job titles. It's not about the cars, the girlfriends, the boyfriends, all of it, the Botox. It goes, it's a lot deeper, a lot deeper. And I'm seeing that now people are trying to go in deeper and touch upon love, because I believe that what I'm trying to say is here is like, when you're in love, when you meet someone, you're completely in love. Remember when we were 18 years old, right? And we had this puppy love and this excitement. We were constantly, it felt like we were constantly on a high and on a bliss, right? We were blissful. Why? Because we tapped into something pure, the pure essence of love. And I'm smiling just saying this because I'm starting to feel this energetically. I cannot prove it, obviously, because it's out there, but I'm starting to see this change now. It's coming. It's coming where people are tapping into that. And they're realizing, as you said, that they have a superpower, that they haven't been tapped. They've allowed for their ego to block them. They've allowed for the world around them, what's happening around them, to distract them, and they're not looking inwards. And at the end of the day, bliss, love is inside you. And I love how you really explained it in such a way, because I read, maybe I'm a hopeless romantic, I don't know, but I truly believe that we can eventually live in a world on Gaia, united, and being able to be more telepathic, more empathic, um more synchronized as well, energetically, aurically. So I'm happy we brought that up, because I always talk about love, and I always and I say that the best or the quickest way to heal is if you tap into your heart and you tap into love. That can heal. Obviously,
Oh,
we have to do
I
some more
mean,
work, but
no,
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying, I'm
you're
simplifying.
well. I mean, you're bringing up such a great point, because the magnetism is a million times more powerful than the electric potential.
Hmm.
So, because the animation is that pulse that comes from the mother, which is magnetism. That is the
Hmm.
true nature. So, when you refer to the heart that emanates that pulse from the physical body, that is the first ground zero point of self-realization. And so, when you are distracted from nothing and you are just in this now moment, that animation will show itself as the breath, as the blood, as the now moment that doesn't require any attention. And so now it's mastering that, and that will be unadulterated and not corrupted in any way, shape, or form. So when you experience it, you will see nothing but love,
Hmm.
nothing but perfection. And I think that's really where it comes down to it. A completion and then rebirth is realizing that everything is an emanated reflection of yourself. And then when you realize that you are me, I am you, that this contracting and expanding, this bellows reality is where you get to see the true nature of who you are. And that doesn't require this very limited infantile state that your personality tends to bring from the mind, from the emotion, from the very simple access of that, because they trap between the head and the heart. You're not accessing the higher state through that, the what we call the by way, the energy center that connects with the universe, nor furthermore the potency of that grounding of the earth. So energy fluidity will show itself, and it doesn't require any thought. You'll be compelled as your natural default to be selfless and in service. It's just who you are, and you'll go, oh my goodness, what I mean, I'm not attempting to think about it. It's just immediate. It is
Hmm.
who I am. It's my breath to help others remember who they are. And it doesn't come down to, a certain currency in relation to a money-backed value. And I'm not telling everyone to go, hey, look, I just want to go and work on a sliding scale. That's not it. When people meet information, there is a need for that to be valued so that energy will meet it. And so when you are experiencing that through your training, my training, everything else, there is a measured value that the original seeker will have that will determine how
Right.
much they embody that. And then it returns
Mhm.
back to whole. So
Mhm.
it's not about taking your shirt off your back and devoting your life to God and Jesus and then living in a cardboard box. That's not what we're talking about.
Mm.
To be self-realized is everything. And that nourishment will come without any disruption or corruption from the personality. And in many cases, we're speaking on these things and we keep reiterating them, because what happens is at a certain point, this will click for you. You might listen to this conversation 100 times, but it will click for the seeker. It will click for the observer, for the individual going, I listened to this 6 months ago and it didn't mean shit to me. And today I have just opened the doorways to full tilt self-realization that is so magnetic. It is absolutely potent, and there's nothing stopping this freight train of love, because it's a universal thing. It's not a subjective, corrupted version of what love might be, because what you're realizing is you're desirous of, at first glance, is what you are in lack of. So everything that is the real true nature is, how much patience do you have for yourself? You understand, you go there, and then you will realize, holy moly, this emanates through every aspect of my reality, and it is showing itself. And if this cannot be met, there is no path for self-realization. Does that make sense?
100%. To me, it makes 100% sense. And I know it's going to make sense too. As you said, the seeker who's ready and who's open is going to receive everything that you've said today, and is going to resonate absolutely. The rest, come back in a few months.
Yeah. Well,
if it doesn't resonate.
We're going to be going back and forth on each other's channels for quite some time.
Exactly. So I wanted to ask you, so for people to get to know you better as well, San, what first awakened you to into Taoism?
Wow, that's a big tall glass of water. But we will digest it. I mean, we come from water, we return to it. Yeah, I mean, it started when I was a young boy. At the age of 4, I realized I could see through my hands, see through walls, see through people's bodies. And it fascinated me. At first, I was left with my own sort of like self-regulated sort of state, because I was a latchkey kid. My mother was a struggling single parent, attempting to create some type of environment that might meet what they call this nucleus, a binary family outlook, mother and father. I never really felt deficient in any sense of the word, because I didn't have a father, yet it all showed itself. So I was left with my imagination. Little did I know, even now deep in the training, when I teach people how to cultivate this potency, imagination is a huge portal of self-realization that you go through, and it comes from being able to dance with those energies, and then harnessing them, and then mastering them, and then, oh my goodness, you're off to the races. So I went there, and I was met, because of my obscure perception of reality. I didn't think very much of it. I could absorb things very easily, very quickly. Anything I'm around, I would instantly understand or know, whether it's a book, an environment, a teaching, an exercise. It was very quick for me to absorb the information and then apply it to this now moment. So when I was a young boy, I wouldn't, being, in this sort of weird environment where I have a single parent, a woman, all these types of things were diminished return within society, where you're literally pushing shit uphill to maintain some type of existence, which I'm so grateful that, even though today it's still met with a lot of resistance, and I think there was a corruption back in those days where people were talking more about liberation or feminist liberation. And I think it was corrupted with a diminished return, where there was a lot of indoctrination instead of truly embodying it. And even today, my mother will talk about it, and she'll be like, yeah, I might have swallowed a couple of pills there for a minute. Yet, the truth is that there needs to be an equalization and an acceptance that is a universal state, whether you are male or female. You need to realize that it's all good in the hood as one. And so society has carved this out. So as a young boy, I was always around this enriched, potent yin energy, whether we're sitting at a table over a dinner where there's a bunch of academics, contemplating reality through the lens of psyche over a glass of wine, and I'm a young boy listening in and piping up and giving conversation to all these well-versed sort of women that are attempting to think something that is greater than their environment and embodying this knowledge. So I was always around that energy, and it was so potent for me. It activated so much within me that started with the physical. So at the age of 10, I was met with this resistance within my childhood. Most of the kids thought I was really weird. This kid does nothing but can always get the top marks in the class, really puts no attention to it, will consume information without the attention of being the book nerd. Happened. So they thought I was very weird. He's that weird kid that just has one parent. And the bullies would basically, I have this conversation when I speak to Jesus Christ. I come across him here and there through healings, and I'm like, is that a thing where I felt like I was literally sacrificing myself as a child when I was being literally beaten? I'd have anywhere from 10 or 15 kids stomping on me at a time. This idea of bullying, I'd be a multi-billionaire at this point because society would not accept this type of abuse. But back in those days, it was kind of common place that just, get over it, take your licks, get on with it. But my will would never be broken. So I'd be met with this adverse response to who I am. And my response would be to eviscerate them verbally with words that were so big that they took 3 days to find a library that had a
whiplash.
Understand what it is, right? And so when they finally worked out what it is, they got one of their friends or their mother to find. 3 days later, I'd have this kid come up to me and punch me in the face and go, "Don't ever say that to me again." I'm like, wow, it's a little slow, the process here. But it was more the fact that I would never meet the submission. And so my willpower, it would seem at face value, was second to none. So you could literally beat me down and I get up and go, "Is that all you've got? Wow. You need to stay down." No, actually, you need to level up a little bit. Have you ever read a book before? If I come in handy. So I would constantly meet this energy, and it made me go, okay, well, I don't like the response that I'm getting from all the kids. So I wanted to meet some type of potency that I also had within me, which was the strength and the yang. So I met it from the physical. And so by having that tactile response and feeding into the physical body, I started bodybuilding and powerlifting for most of my teenage years, and I became very, very good at it. And I had strong strength numbers and results from competing that were absolutely off the charts.
Wow.
And then when I was in my late teens, a voice said to me, "You need to find meditation." And I'm like, just think about this, guys, while we were listening to this conversation. A voice said to me, this is a very common sensory perception that we all speak of. There's a voice in my head that's having a conversation that may be leading me to water or to the edge of a cliff. I'm not sure. We'll find out what that is. And most people get conflicted with that. That tinny monotone is not the higher self. When you're hearing that, this is your personality constantly rinsing and repeating things that are attempting to try and get a different result, which in turn is the definition of insanity. That is not what we're talking about. It's a robust, expansive voice that is all-consuming. So I looked for this meditation. Back in those days, the only thing I had reference to was Hare Krishna's. There was no other evidence for me.
I know back then we had access to was Hare Krishna's. I know. I was one of them.
It's like, it's so crazy, right?
I know.
I was like, I'm not really sure how I can obtain access to meditation when there's little to no information. We were just coming into an age where, Yoga Linda and all these sort of Eastern prophets were coming over into the Western world and integrating some of their teaching that sort of started to blossom itself through, the Beatles back in the 60s. And they were sort of self-realized through their own psychonautic experiences through their music. And they're like, most people are like, I don't even know. They're like out of their mind. They're smoking too much weed or whatever they're doing. There was there wasn't a a value of this spiritual awareness. And
No.
so, as I was looking for this meditation class, it was like I went to a newspaper, and my kids are like, "What is that? A newspaper, Dad?" Well,
Wow.
back in those days, it was a newspaper. In the back, there was a thing called classifieds.
I know.
I found a class of meditation through this so-called Grand Master, right? This woman that was literally 4 foot standing up, and I'm this big gorilla, and I'm searching for this meditation class. I find it in the newspaper. I turn up to the class. I started to, I looked like an eclipse, and most people would be like quite concerned by my appearance. Yet I'm a little soft little teddy bear. Yet when I turned up to this meditation class, it was in a ghetto, it was in some youth rec center, and I
Wow.
was actually quite afraid of my own well-being because
Mm,
that it was starting to get to dusk, and it didn't look good. The neighborhood was bad. There was
mm.
noises, barking, screaming, ambulances, and I'm pulling up to the parking lot, and I'm getting out of my car going, this is probably a bad decision, but I'll try anything once. That was my motto. Let's try anything once. And so I went into the class, and there was half a dozen misfits, beggars can't be choosers, just like myself. And I'm sitting down attempting to replicate this thing they called a lotus position. My back was aching. I couldn't do it. I looked like an overgrown ape scratching his ass. And I was like really trying to contain myself. It was at a point where I'm hearing all this noise. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this thing called meditation. I should just probably get up and leave. And so everyone was posturing themselves. They were getting ready. And this Grand Master was standing in the middle of the room. She was 4 foot wet. When I'm on the ground crouching over, she walks up to me, and she's up to here while I'm on the. And I'm like, okay, this not working. I can't do this. And
Yeah.
anyway, so she stands back in the center of the room. Everyone's in there. They've got their hand mudras. They're in their position,
Mm.
got their eyes closed, and I'm just got my eyes open, hearing noise going, how do I get out of here and live? This is the most concerning thing.
And live.
And live, because it was a bad neighborhood. I was more concerned with what's going on. In any case, she goes, now, and I'm thinking in my head, yeah, lady, what? Now I want you to listen to my voice. And I'm like, oh my goodness, my back's hurting, my eyes are open, everyone's in position.
Yeah.
And she goes, I want you to listen to my voice, and then everything will fall away. And I kid you not, my friend, the second she said that, I exhibited with my
Wow.
eyes open silence for 20 minutes. I'm looking around the room. I'm thinking maybe I'm having a psychotic episode, and
Mm.
everyone's there. I'm hearing nothing but silence. When she's speaking, it's like, and I'm just like, I have found the superpower I've been nurturing since a child. I've been believing in these superhuman superpowers, Superman, Hulk, anyone that Batman. This is real. I have found it, and I was obsessed. So, furthermore, it just went into the next day where I was just on a journey. So this is what meditation is: capturing silence for 20 minutes. I went to find a channeling workshop. Furthermore, this robust voice is telling me channeling. And that second day, I channeled my teacher, Latsu, that I still am in concert with to this day. He's given me all the teaching and insight. I'm as dumb as rocks. I don't claim to know anything. The information comes through you, not to you.
To you, yeah.
Understand that. When I channeled him, it was like a lightning bolt. It emanated through the whole class. Everyone was standing around with,
Wow. Because I was going to ask you, I thought, so that happened the next day, or pretty much like
the next day.
Wow.
And then
Because
the
I would
following
imagine
day,
you channeling him.
and I mean, that teacher, well, here's the thing, that teacher was so like delusional at that point, because at first he didn't want me to come into the class. He was like, I don't know where he's looking at me going, you're in the wrong place. And I'm like, no, I'm here. I want to, no, you're in the wrong place. And, very diminished sort of hippies, vegans, they're hanging around. They don't expect some, gorilla to come in, like channeling, really. I mean, even today, people throw it away as an access point, but there's a mastery to it that takes a certain type of commitment where you really surrender, where you really sacrifice for it to truly get a very fluid source of information. So when I tapped into to Latsu immediately, and I could see him as I see you, and I still see him right now. I see him right here. I'm not 3 cents short of $1. I'm completely coherent. I'm not delusional.
Is that why my ears are ringing? They've been going crazy. But I want to just to tell everyone, but because I was on San's podcast, which is going to come out next week at some point. But you guys, the connection that we had, like I had to stop him halfway through, and I'm like, we know each other. We've met before. We have a connection. Because I was just feeling I was just like the energy, my aura, everything. My guides were in the room. It was crazy. And I feel it now as well. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's been happening ever since we got on the little digital sphere right here. It's been happening previous. There was a build up to our communication today, just so you know. And that's how I experienced it in any case.
And I don't know if you felt me psychically after our, for 2 days, I was so connected to you, San. I'm like, he's going to hate me. I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm just connected to him for 2 days. And then I'm like, I need to disconnect.
Right. Well, there's never a need for that, my dear friend. Never a need for that.
I know, but sometimes it can be intrusive from one,
Of course. I mean, everyone has a starting point of their own origin. And, this sort of thing went on. So I channeled Latsu. Then next day, I was taught clairvoyance and started reading people's auras instantaneously. That was another self-realization, because that teacher was quite corrupted and was being, basically a minion for an entity that was feeding from all his students. And when I got that information, because he was like, okay, I've taught you the rundown. Here's the list. And he goes, give me a reading of me. And he's thinking, you're not going to get this. You might have got the Latsu thing, and now you think you're crazy because you see this guy and you hear his voice. And he's like, there's no way you're going to get this. And in any case, I was like, okay, let me see. There's an entity, looks kind of dark, a little scary looking, telling me that you are feeding it, your students, as a form of payment for your contract with it. And he's just like, he goes, get up, in the other room. And I'm like, whoa. And he's kind of pushing me along. And I'm like, it's like pushing an elephant. So he's pushing this little guy, pushing this elephant in. Whoa, easy, buddy, easy. And he goes, okay, sit down. And I'm like, what? Because I'm still sort of back in the other room, but I'm not registering what just took place. And he's like, listen, I need to explain something to you. And I'm like, did I just read your aura? Did I just read your energy? And he's like, listen, I need you. Shh. Calm down. I need you to hear me very carefully. I'm like,
I can imagine how you felt.
Your aura. And he goes, listen, I need to explain myself. I'm like, no, I don't care. Like, I dismiss the fact that he's some corrupted, demented individual that's feeding the energy of
energy harvesting. Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I'm not even there. I'm like, did I get that right? And he's like, listen, I'll explain. No. Did I get it right? He goes, yes, I did. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And he's trying to give me a confession. I'm more like, I can't believe this. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. And he's giving me this diarrhea of confession. And I'm just like, this is amazing. This is really amazing. I never thought it was that. This is another superpower. This is what I am been looking for. And so he confessed to this. And sure enough, later, he died from cancer. And I held him in my arms. And it was another thing, because the entity said, if you don't want to continue feeding me these energies, I will consume you. And I said,
and it happened.
And this thing said it will take your life. He goes, I can't stop. I mean, it's given me insight and abilities that I've spent 60 years trying to cultivate these things. I'm going to stop. I will. We'll start with this class. But you cannot.
Did he summon them, or did he summon them, or did he open up to them? I mean,
whoever is prepared to give me what I need, I will create a contract with you. And of course, that's the worst thing. That, just so everyone knows who's listening to this, and you think, oh, hang on a second, I don't have any evidence of the spirit world. That's the fastest way for you to realize that that is real, for you to make a throwaway invitation like the one we just spoke of, because you will get a very quick response, and it will not be from something that is a high vibratory state. And so he then passed away. But furthermore, the following day, I was part of I was participating or observing a distant healing, which where this woman's ankle shrunk down to a regular state within seconds. She freaked out because I did it over the phone, and then I was very skeptical. I was like, at first she was like, look, I've got this ankle problem. I'm not going to be able to see you for a week or two. This is how it works. When it's a connective tissue injury, you're going to take a lot longer for healing. That's just the biology effect. Now, she claimed she had an ankle the size of a watermelon. And I was like, I was really disappointed. I wanted to see her. And I said, let me try this distant healing. And she's like, what is that? I'm like, I don't know. Look, don't get so concerned by that. Let me try it out. So I went through the instruction, and I said, in the end, it's going to sound really weird because I'm talking to her on the phone. I'm going to use this incantation. And she's like, okay. And it's very simple. And so I followed the instruction. I then I performed the incantation, and it was basically heal, 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 heal. And then the next minute I heard was, what the fuck? She's screaming through the phone. And I'm like, whoa, what? I don't know what kind of sorcery shit that you are up to, my friend, but I just watched my ankle shrink before my eyes, and I'm standing.
That's incredible.
And for me, I'm like, yeah, sure. But at this point, I was on the verge of insanity because I channeled Latsu. I have him in the background. I'm like, I'm definitely going to have a psychotic break because no one talks to entities that they see and hear them as if they're real. I've lost my mind. Okay, cool. At this point, I'm so far in. I'm doing clairvoyant stuff. I'm now doing distant. When I got over to her house, because in those days we had like Polaroids, and she was like, take a photo of everything. She took a photo of her ankle, and then she ran to me at the door when I came in. And I'm like, okay, what's up? And she's hanging up. It's like, oh my goodness, you're amazing, man. I'm like, whoa. What's going on? And her mother.
Well, that date went well.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And the mother is in the corner of the room because she was still living at home with her mother. She's in the corner of the room puffing away because back in those days, we didn't know what secondhand smoke was. It was a great way. It's more like an incense. Just light it up and you'll sing Kumbaya and everything's good. So she's puffing away. You know, it's a normal formula for most people in those days. And so the daughter's showing me this photo of her ankle. And then I'm looking at her. She's staring. I'm like, this is unbelievable. And the mother's puffing away. Just looks like a bloated whale, honestly, because all she fed herself was cigarettes and vodka. That was her remedy of life. And she did not meet it with anything else. No one told her what to do or say. Her influence, being her money, determined that she had a bunch of minions around her that would love to tell her everything she wants to hear. But she didn't believe in doctors. And so she's puffing away, and out of nowhere, she's like, and I'm like, okay. I'm looking down, and she's like, I always knew you were a healer. And I'm like, whoa. What are you talking about? She's like, I always knew you were a healer. I'm like, and the daughter's looking at me with a big smile, and I'm like, oh, what the heck at this point?
The daughter's like, let's go.
Right. It's like, okay. And she's like, I've got a problem with my foot. You know, I don't believe in doctors. I want you to come over and take a look at it. I'm like, okay, well, at this point, why do I have to lose? It's insanity one day after another. So I turned up to her house. She literally was like, I don't think she's seen her feet in decades, to be quite honest, because she just pays people to take care of her. Complete distended stomach, sitting up on a throne, still puffing away. I don't think she had a moment where she didn't have a cigarette in her mouth. Incredible. And honestly, the remedy of alcohol and everything else. So I get down there to look at it. I've got Latsu in my periphery going, yeah, let's take a look. And I'm thinking, man, I have really, I've shit the bed. I've lost my mind.
I can imagine.
This is insane. And so I pulled a sock off, and it's, it's gangrenous flesh. It's like that.
Oh, stop.
The
Ugh.
amputate. It's got to be gone. And I'm now, what do I know? Other than I'm reacting to something that looks like it should have been out of some agoraphobic sort of horror movie. I was having a reaction. And I'm stopping, and Lutzu's like, no, just take a minute. I'm like, and we're talking telepathically. I'm not speaking out loud because she'd think I was insane, right? So it's like, okay, what exactly do you want me to do? Well, you're going to witness a healing. And I'm like, okay, I've hit the quota. What else can happen at this point? Sure, why not? I'm seeing auras, I'm seeing spirits, I'm listening to voices, I'm hearing. It's all of this is happening one day after another. And I kid you not, within 40 minutes, I watched that gangrenous flesh go back to pink in color.
Wow.
And that was my send off to Insanityville, Psycho Circus, one of my favorite songs from Kiss. Hey, at this point, why not? It's all happening here. Little did I know.
Might as well. Might as well.
So, and she was as happy as a pig in shit. It's like, oh, now my foot feels so much better. Thank you. Now, she didn't even realize this petri dish was being percolated and grown, because she had a bunch of minions and maids and administrators, and quite frankly, I believe they were servants, just feeding her whatever she wants because she's paying them. So to witness that was absolutely mind-boggling. And then, of course, I spent 5 days having what someone would consider the dark night of the soul, receiving that. Now, the reason for the audience just to understand why it was such a big contention for me was when I was a young boy, a lot of my friends delved into all type of psychonautic, mind-altering drugs, LSD, ecstasy, basically pot, anything that they could get their hands on, they wanted to consume. I was not driven by that. The voice that I had was like, no, just stay your path of exercise and training. So I would hang out with my buddies, and they'd be like, one day I'm like sitting there reading a muscle and fitness magazine, and one of my buddies comes up to me and says, hey, whoa, you got to go, bro. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, you're killing my buzz. Everyone's high in here but you. But we've been friends for years. What's the problem? I don't understand. You're killing my will to live, bro. Get out. And so I got my marching orders basically banished from the village, and proceeding that as through my teenage years, 20 friends, 19 of them unalived themselves, if you want to call it that way. I don't know. You knew YouTube, whatever you want to call it.
You said it right for YouTube.
Right. And they unalived themselves.
Yeah.
And my evidence was, if I take that, I am going to lose my mind. And so my last friend was, to this day, is being commandeered by the teaching that I share with him, and he's having a really good experience contending with what he perceives as, schizophrenia, but it's diminished to practically nothing because he's used the teaching and the healing for all the stuff. And I'm very grateful, but he's the last one out of 20 friends. Incredible. Now, and so for me, I used that as a catalyst to stay. I wasn't going to partake in any of that. I watched my friends' demise over years as teenagers. And so I thought I'd shit the bed. I'd lost my mind. What did I do? I avoided all these things. How come all of a sudden I'm literally 3 cents short of $1, as Crockett and Tubbs would say on Miami Vice, one of my favorite shows from the 80s. But anyway, another story. Love the colors. That brings me right back. Those colors are Miami Vice colors. Just
you mean the original one, right? With Don Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, because they did like a sequel, whatever it was, like a thing. It was awful. It was bad. The original was so good.
Yeah, the original was
right. It does have the Miami
exactly color. The bingos, and I mean it's just so 80s. I love it. And so I thought I had avoided all this. So for 5 days, back in those days, rotary phones, you can't get hold of anyone. It's not like you get a cell phone these days. So I experienced this turbulent, every thought, every feeling, every emotion at once. And I thought I
Mhm.
had a handle on my reality. I thought, I'm a very happy person. I'm always in. And I experienced it all. By the third day, I thought about unaliving myself. I thought, I've done it. What I've done to myself is irreversible. What I've done to myself is detrimental. And ultimately, I'm going to end up where my friends are.
Mm.
Now, with that, I held on because I have this tenacity and resilience that I knew from a young age that nothing could break my will. And
Mhm.
I held through this turbulent experience where anyone else would have literally wanted to tap out with mercy, just end it. And by the end of that car wash of every thought, every feeling, and every emotion was the other end, where
Mm.
it was complete embodiment and unification. But through
Right.
that, I would go and see, I'd try and distract myself. I'd go to the movies. I'd see a naked woman and vomit in front of the people in front of me. I threw up on them. It was so
Really?
visceral.
Wow.
And so all of this is being purged as we were put at the breaking, the
Yeah.
realization, the awakening. Everyone has these moments of self-realization. And then finally I got hold of this teacher and he's like, oh, that's amazing. People spend a lifetime looking for that type of stuff. I'm like, you can keep it. I will never, ever experience that again. And, it was so, you know, crazy. Even in that same week, I remember also, I think it might have been my mother, where I took her foot and she had bunions on her foot. And we both stood there and witnessed the bunions melt down and disappear and go
Wow.
back into the normal formed foot. It's like these types of things are always
Mm.
happening. The potential is always there. You're witnessing it. It's a resonance. And then the more unassuming you become, the more you just accept and allow. We keep referring to this present moment. That is where the secret source is. That's where the magic is, and being
Yes.
able to hold it without being this narrative or distraction. And ultimately,
Getting rid of imposter syndrome, which is what all of us have at the beginning.
yes,
Imposter syndrome. You're like, no, this can't be real. Where am I getting this from? How come I'm seeing this, person or this soul, this spirit in front of me? No one else is. Yeah, in the beginning, it's it's imposter syndrome, and sometimes it creeps in. With me, sometimes it still creeps in, but I assume it's normal because
yeah.
it's the rational brain kicking in and the rational thinking where you're like, okay, I need to rationalize sometimes, but I completely, I'm completely, what's the word I'm looking for? In awe how fast
Oh, it was.
it just completely unfolded for you. Like within a few days, you were healing. You went through your dark night of the soul. You were channeling in a
Yeah,
few days. It's
yeah, yeah.
incredible.
And that's where I remind people that you can listen to our conversation and be realized. There is no, it's like, yes, there is a conditioning that most will fall into, and that mastery, I think, is
Mm.
it's valuable, it's necessary. And that's why I then, through Lao Tzu's direction, sought out teaching. Then I went over to China, got ordained in 2 lineages of Daoism. And that is a fundamental potency in relation to method that has been handed down from generation to generation for thousands of years. And it just works. It doesn't just work, it is mastered. And this is what's most important for anyone that wants to be self-realized, is to find their method to their madness. And I
Correct.
would say that when I share the Taoist alchemy teaching, that's a fundamental, but the deeper tutelage and deeper mastery comes from the student to teacher that Lao Tzu teaches through me, where you get stuff that goes way beyond what has been mastered by someone within the realm of
Mm.
man through their connection with the universe. You are getting a transmission and a one-on-one experience that is second to. And that's why most people, when they look at Taoist alchemy, they've never come across anything like the stuff I teach, because it
Mm.
goes beyond the fundamentals that someone channeled thousands of years ago, and it's enriched by the immortality of that teacher now. And you access it, and it's so potent because you can experience it every step of the way through your own self-realization and go, wow, this this is this is this is what was meant to happen for me to be self-realized, was this embodiment. And it's so magical and mystical. I refer to it as, I share with people, I capture Big Trouble in Little China meets Last Airbender, and they have a baby. And this is what you do. Because it's magical. It should be. It shouldn't be, oh, no, you're a non-dualist and your non-duality will be realized through this mundane suffering. That's okay. You can pick that whack-a-mole, or you can pick another one, and it just so happens that we share so many different
Right.
there's a million ways up the mountain. There is no right or wrong, which is
Yeah.
you dismiss someone else's belief system, you dismiss your own, which is the very decay and the collapsing of someone's self-realization, because they're so about the absolute. And that absolute truth, when someone comes to you with an absolute truth, about face and run in the other direction, because that's theirs. It doesn't necessarily have to be yours, and it's only met. This is why I love the alchemy, because the alchemy is fundamental. It's a foundational Taoist metaphysics that enhances your own journey. But you have to have the evidence. It's part of the experience. It's like enough of the, oh, well, this is the way, the only way. No, there is just, it's an infinite amount of opportunity. I always tell people, find your method for your mastery, your madness, whatever you choose it to be, and allow it to teach you, because that's what it comes down to. That mirroring effect will be so much more evident, because you'll start to realize that, oh my goodness, I am embodying this more and more and more, and it's becoming self-realized. And every breath, every action, every moment is that pulse of that mother.
There's no cookie cutter method, that's for sure. So you have to find your method. Right. I could talk to you for hours, but you're going to be back anyways. We know this. You guys, we're going to be back and forth,
back
100%.
And forth in channels. Both of us are we have created impermanence, and we are now permanent. So this is the new stratosphere.
Exactly. But what I do want to mention before we go is that you've written a book.
Yes.
And
yes.
also you offer mentorship programs.
Yes.
You also have other programs and classes as well. Can you talk a little bit about what's on offer right now, and talk about your book? I will link everything down below anyway, so people will be able to use the link and purchase your book.
Right. So I transcribed the Tao Te Ching, the Tao Te Ching with Lao Tzu last year. That is a embodiment of 2025 mastery. So this is not just some dusty translation. It is directly from the creator of this material. So it will be very unique. Anything that you may have experienced or had a drive-by self-realization in will not meet anything like the potency of this transcription. So that's directly from Lao Tzu. It's in Mandarin, Pinyin, and of course English. Each verse is an incantation. The incantation is 81 levels of consciousness plus a frequency, a shape, and a color that meets that mirroring effect of that potent maternal and primordial mother. So when you read it, it echoes back what is deficient within you and makes you whole. And so people are like, holy crap, this is like living. Yes, it's a living scripture. And I would say that most scriptures, if it's truly drawn from a source base, is a living scripture. This will meet that requirement and furthermore exceed it. And you'll be very pleasantly surprised. I put together a very quick manual on manifestation, which is an ancient art form of synchronicity. That only takes, most people are like, oh my goodness, it's 18 pages, and it's $18, and most people will instantly read it and go, holy moly, this gives me the answer to everything. Now, I just gave that as a crash course. I've just completed 4 books. 2 of them are going to be published in the next week or two. That is an in-depth, 2 to 4, probably 400 pages of very valuable information that will give you a deep understanding. The first one is Return, Immortality Crystallized Within the Material. That is about the alchemy, Taoist alchemy, the fundamental, where it starts, where it ends, how you capture that, what are the fundamentals of what's necessary, the requirements for you to master it. And then the second is Whispers, the the intimate relationship that you have with the universe, which is a deep manual on channeling and how to
Mm.
acquire that and harness that relationship. So that further with coupling of an app that I developed, which is a contemporary offering of an ancient practice, having someone self-realized. Normally, if you're a judge, a
Mm.
cop, a janitor, and you don't make sense of reality, other you want to break from the incessant noise, this will help you instantly become realized, because it's a thought, feeling, and emotion encapsulated by a visual, audible experience, creating a kinesthetic charge, which will know that you're in that center point. So you don't have to be met with guric sort of like ideas of what the spiritual
Mm.
self-realization is. Once you hit play, if you are a human that has a nervous system, you'll be met with 8 pina coladas, a full body massage, in 10 days in the Bahamas. That is part of the experience.
Mm.
And most people, they just want to break from the incessant noise.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
mastery will start to come through the body, which we refer to as, when you're thinking, you're not knowing; when you're knowing, you are feeling. And that's where the origins of true mastery come in, is when you realize that it all comes through you. It's happening all the time, 24/7. You just
Mm.
need to start acquiring that access and knowing that it never leaves you. And that's where alchemy comes in. And so you start doing crazy stuff.
Very
But I would
interesting.
have people look out for that. I'm going to open another page. It's called Taoist Rights. And through that, you can get other services, mentorships, and all different types of goodies through that. I'm releasing a tea line. So
Ooh.
now I'm drinking oolong, a magnolia, which is so.
Ooh.
And
Ooh.
furthermore,
Sounds
um,
good.
and
I can almost
there'll be
taste it.
many different, yeah, and there'll be many different teas and options that are,
You've
uh,
got to let me know when it's ready, because then I will update all the information
yeah,
anyways on this video, because I want everyone to go and just go on his website, just check out what, like, it's very fascinating and something that we didn't, well, I do mention it in the intro because I've already done the intro, is that you are an ordained Taoist priest.
2 lineages, yeah.
2
So
lineages,
one's the 66th
66
generation
and
holder,
126.
126. Yeah, yeah. It's it really gives foundation. I would say that for the seeker, now the mastery comes with you meeting that. So you're looking
Yeah.
for more understanding of yourself. It doesn't mean that you need to go down an ordinance path of monastic self-realization
Mm.
to be mastered in this alchemy. Um, I do offer that option, but that's not necessary. You will learn that mastery of alchemy that will then drop into the template of your reality, however
Mm.
you choose it to be. That, mastering these things does not require any type of belief system. But it just so happens, being a Taoist priest, these teachings are so ancient, they're so valuable that
Yeah.
you can apply it to any path, because the alchemy is the alchemy, which returns to the metaphysics, and then that is universal. And so it's not about, oh my goodness, well, I'm not a Taoist. That's not what this is about.
Mm.
Taoism in of itself is self-mastery. It's know thyself, and it starts and ends with that. Now you can blossom into other relationships within Taoist lineages. That's for you to decide. But the alchemy, to be self-realized, to manifest, create
Mm.
magic, healing, this is part of the infrastructure that people will become very familiar with through this type of teaching.
Fascinating. So everybody, make sure that you also follow San Qing's podcast. Everything, just go on the description box and you'll find all the information there as per usual. Go follow him. Go watch his interviews as well. He brings in amazing guests, incredible other light beings, other teachers, other spiritual people, and just let him know that you came from us. We're going to be seeing Sanqing a lot, and I can't wait. I can't wait for, I don't know. I psychically, I'm picking up there are things coming in the future that we're going to be working on together, and I can't wait. That's what but I cannot say what it is right now. But thank you so much for today. This was an incredibly interesting discussion and conversation. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to learn so much about Taoism, about themselves, about self mastery, about love, and about finding bliss and love and changing your life. It's up to you. You can do it. You can do it. Anyone can do it. Just follow San, because you'll find out all the tricks and the practices and everything that you need to know to get there. And you're going to be seeing him again very soon. And I will let you know when our episode or on his podcast is going to come out next week. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Till next time. Bye.